Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicty if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today, we're going to be talking about how to fix low FPS, screen tearing, and other performance issues in Sword of Legends Online. Now, a lot of people have been enjoying this game, but I've seen in chat, hey, I have a 3080 and I'm still experiencing stuttering. I'm having high ping, I'm having all these problems. So I figured, okay, let's do a video, let's explain things in detail, and let's show you how to do it so that you can get the most out of your hardware and improve your gameplay experience. Because after all, nobody likes swing, big sword, and then pause, and then swing. The game doesn't play like that. You need big sword, swing, swing. You gotta fire off the bard attacks. You gotta swing that Reaper Scythe. And then, of course, you gotta throw the spear as a Spearmaster. The summoners do things, of course, but we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, if you like this style of content, or you like solo in general, why don't you subscribe? And hey, maybe leave a like and a comment, and let me know that you're new here. Without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so let's start with the things that you can do in-game to decrease the load on your hardware. First, we press escape, then we go into game settings, and we have a couple of presets that can be chosen if you want. We have minimal, speed, low, normal, high, ultra, and user-defined. Now, the game does have a handy checker by which it estimates what your system can handle. Now, if you're recording or streaming, as well as playing, I would recommend toning the settings down just a little bit in order to ensure smooth performance. So, let's just click investigate and see what we have. So, I'll investigate. There, alright, so, I got a pretty powerful rig, not gonna lie, a 2080 Ti and an i7 8700K. So, like I said, I got a pretty powerful rig. But, let's take a look here. So, let's say you want to eke out that little bit of performance, or you're having problems with low FPS, screen tearing, screen freezing. First, we want to make sure your resolution is in full screen mode. That way you don't have to use any background processes actively while you're playing the game. Or at least as few as possible. You can turn down the rendering scale. That'll help. I would absolutely limit the foreground FPS. Currently, New World is experiencing a bug where they're burning out cards, and one of the common links is, of course, uncapped FPS. Now, I'm not going to say that's the cause, because that's absurd, but there is a bug going on, and it's happening to a lot of very high-end cards, 3080s, 3090s, things like that. So, let's just cap the FPS and leave it at that. Of course, the background FPS, when you're tabbed out, how much it'll be. If you're tabbed out, you don't really care about the performance of the game at that point because you're not paying attention to the game. You tabbed out. Alright, so then we'll scroll down here. You can hide teammates, enemies, and others' pets. That'll be useful for example, if I was recording a video, which I am now, or if I want to get screenshots, or if you're just questing and you don't care and you're having a little bit of latency, you can just turn that off because, again, you're just questing. It doesn't matter. Alright, so let's go into advanced here. So now that we're in advanced, camera control. If you turn down the maximum camera distance, right, that will be less of a load on your processor because it doesn't have to render as much. And of course, you can turn all the display information off to decrease the load. As for effect bars, I actually have mine show filter effects showing only mine. Right, that because I don't need to see all of the things exploding all at once. Believe me, combat in later levels is an absolute light show, and while it's a joy to see, it can be very taxing on your processor and your graphics card. Alright, so then we move here, camera shake, instantly double tap movement keys to dodge, automatic close windows when hit, you can have that there, deactivate combat skill shout, you can do all these things here, and then of course we have the interface, hiding threat menus, we can enable the gamepad, which we will do a video on how to set up a controller later, show other special effects during combat. I'm going to actually turn that down to 1. The reason I want to turn that down to 1 is because in harder content, you don't get telegraphs from the boss. So you have to see what the boss is doing. And if there's a light show around the boss, you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then you get hit by an army reaper, or a poison line, or a web thing. It happens. The web thing is really annoying. And then you have chat and all those things. You can automatically voice these things. So let's go down into picture. This is where you're going to get the most of your money when you get into granular settings changes. So here we go. We have total. You can decrease the draw distance. And then, of course, we have low. Your texture quality, you can always turn that down. Texture filter and texture detail. So if you turn the text, so let's say you're having a little bit of trouble, I'd turn it down to, you know, go 2 steps down, right? So normal, I'd go from max to normal, filter to 2, and detail to 2. Then, of course, you can get rid of the you can turn the sunlight down, the ambient occlusion, and the image-based lighting. You can turn that stuff off. One really big thing that sucks up processing and graphical power are shadows, because shadows move as you move. So turning down the shadow quality and the shadow detail, even a couple of notches, will give you a huge boost in performance. Same thing with vegetation. You can turn that down. Waves, since waves actively move and they're always loading, they're always doing something, You can get a lot of power out of cutting that. True Shadows, same thing. Particle quality. Turning that down will absolutely help. Because the more particles are on screen, the more things that's rendered at the same time, especially if you have the light shows going on, it's gonna look awesome, but if you're not on very strong hardware, it's gonna freeze. Freeze. So again, keep that in mind. Now, it may seem like I'm hampering on a whole lot of different things. And the idea is I want to recommend that all of these things can be done. You don't necessarily have to do them all. You can do some of them. Like, for example, you can be like, well, I really like the water. I'm going to turn the shadows all the way down because, honestly, how often am I looking at my character, the back of my character casting light? I'm looking in front of the enemy, but I like the water. It looks pretty. So you don't have to do all of them at once, but a little bit from everything can give you a much better and more complete experience without having to be like, wow, there's no grass in ancient China. And it's like, yeah, there was grass. It's just, sadly, the GPU and CPU with the load and the players and everything can't handle it. Okay, we'll scroll down here. You get your post-processing, your material, volumetric lighting. Again, you can always lower those. Go down to our textures. We see our textures there. Vegetation, material. All right, so that's just little things here. This is the full list, and then you can scroll by. So that will be basically everything you can do in-game to decrease the load of the hardware that you need. Now, for our next part, we're going to go outside of the game, and I'm going to show you things you can do outside of the game in order to make sure that your hardware is optimized and or up to snuff to even play solo. Now that we've done basically everything in the game that we can do in order to decrease the load on our hardware, let's do some things outside of the game in order to optimize it and decrease the load as well. That way we can eke out just a little bit more performance. First, we're going to make sure we go into our task manager and set the resources to high. So we'll do that first by doing that. Bam. Okay, as you can see, I'm in the processes, so we'll start with processes. As you can see, Sword of Legends Online, right? Go here, open that up, browser host, Sword of Legends. So I'm going to go here, right-click, and then I want to go to Details. And the reason I want to go to Details is because Details will let me do a little tweaking. And if you don't see this option or all these things here, make sure to go to the bottom and click More Details. I always have that on by default, so it says Fewer Details. Go to Details. Bam, you can see. Now this says Gyeonjol.exe. It might say Sword of Legends Online.exe, but for now it's Gyeonjol. So here we go. We've got this. I can end the task in the process tree, provide feedback. Now what we do is we want to set priority. Now if you're having frame rate issues, one of the things you can do is you can actually go into set it to high. That'll make sure that it gets it's the first in line to get those resources. And that can actually help you a great deal when it comes to having frame rate issues or stuttering or things like that. Now that I've shown you how to allocate more resources from your hardware to go to Sword of Legends Online, please close your browser tabs. You don't need 80 open when you're playing an MMO, especially if you're having performance issues. There are a couple other things we can do, though, to help mitigate this. And remember, it's a buffet, not a step-by-step guide. You don't have to do everything. Once you get to an acceptable level of performance for you, you can stop, and then you can tweak if you'd like. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Nvidia control panel. Now, there is something for AMD, but I have an Nvidia card, so we'll do the Nvidia, and then I'll read out how to do the AMD stuff. So first we pull this bad boy up, then we pull this up. There's our 3D settings for the Nvidia control panel. So one thing we want to do first here is we want to go down to our GPU settings. We want to go to our power management mode. Now, we want to make sure that's set to maximum power. And the reason we want to set it to maximum power is because it'll get the most power to your hardware. Keep in mind that will increase the amount of heat your system generates to make sure your cooling unit is up to snuff so you don't burn out your hardware. Then we scroll down here. We go down up to image sharpening mode. Want to make sure that's off and the scaling disabled. That will decrease the load on your hardware. Then we want to enable threaded optimization and G-Sync if you have monitors that support it. Now, I have it set to auto, which is fine. Takes advantage of multiple CPUs. And we want to set our display mode to single performance display mode if you have more than one monitor. Now, I realize that not everybody may have that, so that's fine. On to the AMD side. Since I don't have an AMD card, and graphics cards are quite hard and expensive to get right now, I figured I'd look up the steps to tweak an AMD graphics card for optimum performance for Sword of Legends Online. So, here we go. If you have an AMD graphics card, follow the steps. So right-click anywhere on an empty desktop space and open up the AMD Radeon Settings control panel. Now choose the global graphics option to change graphic card settings for your games. Once you're in, turn off all proprietary post-processing options that AMD has enabled by default. These will include Radeon Anti-Lag, Radeon Chill, and Radeon Boost. Also, turn off Wait for Vertical Refresh, which will boost performance, but can cause screen tearing, so keep that in mind. That is one of those things. Disable Image Sharpening, Anti-Tropic Filtering, Maximum Tessellation Level, Frame Rate Target Control, OpenGL Triple Buffering, and then turn on Surface Format Optimization. The GPU workload setting, select Graphics Mode for best performance. Select the Performance Mode under the Texture Filtering Quality option. Finally, set both Tessellation and Shader Cache to AMD Optimized Mode for the most optimal experience while playing Sword of Legends Online. So if you follow those steps with an AMD card, that will help. Now, again, I'm sorry I don't have an AMD card to show you, but it is rather expensive to go out and buy a graphics card right now with all the crypto mining. Alright, on to some miscellaneous things, and then we'll wrap up the video. Now that I've gone over how to optimize your hardware for Sword of Legends Online, both in and out of game, there are certain things we do need to discuss. The first being that if you do not have the minimum hardware, no matter what you do, there's always going to be some performance loss. So keep that in mind. Now, I do understand that, of course, graphics cards are expensive, and budgets vary throughout the world. So this isn't me disparaging you if you don't have the hardware. This is just me saying sometimes people just don't have the hardware. You can always get it. As technology proliferates, it does become cheaper and more accessible. Now, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. In fact, do that last one first. It helps out the channel greatly. If you did enjoy this content, you can always let me know. You can follow me on Twitter, @Nimicry. You can follow me on Instagram, @NimicryTwitch. And, of course, if you do feel like going above and beyond being that truly immortal hero, there is a Patreon. That's patreon.com/Nimicry. In addition, I stream on Twitch Friday through Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, got any questions, comments, concerns? You like the video, you hate the video? Roll on by the Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Nimicry. That's Nimicry. And let me know. Outside of that, guys, I will see you in the next Sword of Legends Online video, and I hope you have a pleasant day.